No.
Hey man, it's called sports, man. There's gonna be some contact. I've watched it like 5 times in a row. It doesn't look that bad.
Okay, fine. You know what I do? You know what I do the next time I'm the shortstop coming across the bag and he's coming at me? I throw it right at his head. I
Yeah,
go
well,
right
just
hit.
have the pitcher throw it at him if you don't like what he's doing. That's
I
how
hit
you
no,
should
no,
be
no, and I
spending.
take care. I'll be the sheriff myself. I hit him straight in the chest with a fat, as hard as I can, throwing that ball, so he can't get out of the way of it. See
Yeah,
how he feels coming in.
he'd kick your ass.
No, he wouldn't. Not him.
Oh, kidding.
Then he would, but not him.
Hey,
He'd be
well,
hiding behind somebody.
it's all right. All is right in the world because
Oh God.
Giancarlo Stanton is back on the injured list. I didn't really know what to do with baseball this year, especially during that stretch. What was it, like 10, 12 games? He was the hottest hitter in baseball. Everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. I almost pulled the trigger on a couple of pieces of memorabilia because I'm like, this is it. He's going to return to his old Marlins farm, and boom, it's over.
John Madden once said it, and I believe it. You can't pull fat. These guys work out too much. You can't pull fat. They get too hyped up in their muscles, and they pull their muscles, and that's all that happens. So,
But I mean, there's guys that have muscles that don't go on the injured list every 3-4 games. I mean, I've never seen anybody get hurt, especially ever since he's been on the Yankees. The guy spent more time on the injured list than he has on the active roster.
yeah, I mean, he definitely either has a low threshold of pain, or he's lazy and he just likes
Well,
to
there's
take his
nothing.
time off.
It's never even like a
Torn
serious
muscle.
injury.
Yeah.
It's a this. I think he retroactive to May 14th. He's on the IL for, I think it was like a quad strain. I mean, it's always a hamstring or a quad. It's just something ridiculous that it seems to me like he could play through it. He's a designated hitter. He doesn't even play in the field.
Can't run hard 4 times a game.
You can't go up there and swing the bat. Hell, half the time he either strikes out or hits a home run. So he doesn't even have to run down to first.
I was just so happy that the Orioles beat them yesterday, so they didn't get to sweep them. That kind of made my day, especially with the way the Mets were throwing up a giant egg down in freaking Tampa. They gave away the game on Friday, and then they just got their butts pounded on Saturday and Sunday. So the Mets also lost Conforto. McNeil's nursing some kind of a pulled muscle of some sort. Hamstrings now are going to be the big thing, I guess, this year. And they don't know Jacob deGrom. He was supposed to either today or tomorrow do some kind of a pitching off the mound to see when he can get back. So hopefully they will get back and we can talk about baseball again and another time, because tonight it's got to be about basketball. And we got the playoffs starting this week, the play-in games, shall we say. Looks exciting. I mean, for the Northeast, for here, been a long time since the Knicks have been in, and this is a Knicks team you can finally get behind. The last Knicks team that made the playoffs were the version with Carmelo Anthony. And Carmelo, I wasn't a fan of his. He still has a strong fan base around here. But I have to say it was a 50-50 split down the middle on Carmelo when he was here. This team, everybody in this area is behind. I mean, especially when you look across the river and you got the Brooklyn Nets, who are going to be a strong team. We'll now see if the way they treated these superstars all year long was the right formula to have them ready for this 2-month stretch to possibly win a title. So we'll see if that's right. You wanted to talk about and start out with the disappointing people. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and let's start with what you see as the disappointing people.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into the play-in games. Obviously, we'll hit on that a lot tonight, and also, just how the season finished up. But I just wanted to go over real quickly, the biggest disappointment of the year in the NBA, because there's a lot of teams that overachieved, which I would say the Knicks are number one in my opinion. I think a lot of people thought Thibodeau would get them going in the right direction. He's obviously had, a lot of success in Chicago. The Minnesota didn't go well, but this guy is a proven coach, and I think everybody expected them to get better. but not this good. I think he's definitely a candidate for Coach of the Year. I think Doc Rivers is a candidate for Coach of the Year, but that they've got to be one of the overachievers. But I've got to say that my most disappointing team has got to be the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, I totally agree there.
I mean, I just can't believe how far they have fallen. I mean, let's talk about last year. At the same time, the Raptors 2019-2020, they were 53-19. 53-19 with a .736 winning percentage. That's a good season. I mean, that's a solid season. First year without Kawhi Leonard, coming off of their tight, everyone was looking for him because they had just won the title the year before that. So, it's not like they just coasted through and nobody was looking at them on their schedule. Everybody was, wanting to knock off the champs. It's hard the year after you win a title, but they came back even without Kawhi. They won 53 games, in a little bit of a shortened season. They went 53-19, nothing to sneeze at. And then you get to this year, and what the hell? 27-45. They finished .375 winning percentage. Finished the year on a 1-9 skid, and just embarrassing. I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, they talked about trading Lowry, who's kind of their leader that was still there. They never traded him. Pascal Siakam had a decent season, averaged 21.4 points and 7.2 rebounds. So he was one of the lone bright spots, in my opinion, but he didn't really take that next step forward. And, they just fell off the map and, made a trade late, trying to get Gary Trent Jr. in there. And, that didn't really work, even though I like Gary. He ended up averaging over 16 points, but didn't really provide much of a boost as far as winning games. So just an embarrassment to fall this far. I don't know what happens now. Do you blow this team up and start over? I kind of think you have to. But does that mean they get rid of Nick Nurse and the coaching staff? I don't know, but I expect to see something happen pretty soon because that was not a good showing.
Well, the oldest thing they say in sports is you'd rather trade a player too early than too late. And unfortunately, it's easy for me to say this now. We're 2 years removed from Kawhi, but when they couldn't re-sign Kawhi, maybe they should have really realistically looked at getting rid of Lowry then and starting the clock on a new generation of Toronto Raptors. Because what they did was they ended up, like you said, they had a good year last year, but we'll never know because of COVID could have contributed, but they traded water for a year. And early in the season, they looked okay, but then the real Raptors showed up. They couldn't get the right package for Lowry, and this is what you're stuck with. It's kind of, I don't really want to call it the Eli Manning theory, whatever, whoever, those superstars that stick around just 1 or 2 years past when their value's gone, and now there's not much you can do with it. But I think you're right. I think Siakam is somebody that could be a building block, but as you said, can he be the cornerstone?
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it. You're gonna have to get somebody in there that can, be the Kawhi Leonard 2.0 or whatever. 2022. I mean, it's a shame, but I totally agree with you that they were disappointing in the major disappointment this year. Let's look at a couple other teams that didn't make it. I'm a big Billy Donovan fan, but 31-41 didn't have a real good effect there. I think that team is in a total rebuild right now, and they're another team. When I look at them, even though they do have some talent on that roster, I don't know if they have the right talent on that roster.
Yeah, I mean, I love Billy Donovan, and he's proven to be a great coach in college and the NBA. But I got to be honest, I didn't really expect him to do much with this team. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I haven't liked any of their draft picks, really. the Kobe White pick I didn't really like. I am a fan of Wendell Carter because he's from Duke, but as far as a pro basketball player, he's not great. Denzel Valentine, who they drafted a couple years ago from Michigan State, he hasn't really worked out. They drafted Bobby Portis from Arkansas, who I think is actually a pretty good player, but they shipped him out of town. I just don't know what they're doing there. I'm not sure what the plan is. And I don't think that I really blame Billy Donovan because he proved that he could win in Oklahoma City with far less talent than other teams. But this team, I look at the roster and I'm just kind of like, what is the objective and what is the strategy behind grouping these guys together? I don't get it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do have some kind of scoring on their team, but I mean, not enough. I don't know. I mean, maybe I expect too much out of Billy when he arrives at a location. Maybe that's what my problem is. But what about Levine? I mean, you had Levine there and still he couldn't get enough out of him.
Yeah, I mean, Levine's a good player. But he's not a guy that I look at as a superstar that can just carry a team. I mean, he actually scored a lot of points this year, and he averaged, over 27 points a game, which is respectable. But I just, when were those points scored? And, were those points in a loss when they were down by 20 and he was throwing up 3-pointers? I mean, I think a lot of them were. And, there weren't a lot of meaningful points in that average. I just, nothing against the guy, but it's just not a piece that I would build around if I was trying to have sustained success in the NBA.
And then your bottom three guys in the East. I mean, Cleveland, they got to wait for LeBron's son to come up, it looks like, at this point, because, I mean, it gave everybody a little bit of a hope early in the season about doing something, and then they ship Drummond out of town. And, I mean, they even gave up on themselves early. Orlando, there ain't no magic in Orlando, and the Pistons are god-awful. I mean, and they gave away the two aging superstars they have for nothing. So I think those three teams we don't even have to worry about for a long while, unless because I don't see anybody coming out in the draft that's going to turn anybody around quickly myself. I don't know. We'll get to that when drafts comes up, but I don't see that. Out in the West, I know New Orleans was looking like they were on the build with your man Zion till injuries got him. But you talked about it all year long. How long a leash can they have Van Gundy on?
I don't know. I mean, I never understood the hire to begin with. I mean, you've got Alvin Gentry there. I thought that Alvin Gentry did a pretty decent job, honestly, without having Zion at his disposal. And then, management putting Zion on kind of a pitch count when he did have him. I thought that he did a decent job. And, they missed out on going in the bubble and they just kind of kicked Gentry out of town. And I did not like that move. I would have been okay with it if they'd had a plan, but to just go out and peg Stan Van Gundy and sign him up, I really don't get it. He's not a great motivator, in my opinion. He's not a wonderful X's and O's guy. I mean, if they had hired Jeff Van Gundy, I might have been okay. But Stan Van Gundy's got a strong history of not living up to expectations and sucking.
Well, the other thing is, I totally agree with you. Jeff Van Gundy he was the smart Van Gundy.
Yeah, I take him.
Let's face back. Stan is Rob Ryan. But it's the thing that bothers you so much about it is you're only 2 years removed from seeing Anthony Davis go out of town for the same reason. You didn't build a team around him. You didn't get the right coach for him. You didn't give him some reason to stay in. Because I'll tell you one thing, I cannot see why a superstar, if you give him the right coach, if you give him the right circumstance, wouldn't want to play in New Orleans. I mean, there's something about that town. It's a great town. It's a great sports town. I mean, they only have the Saints to compete with as a major team there. Where you got Tulane and you got the Saints, and then you got the Pelicans. So I mean, they do attract to be the superstars of that town is not hard to be if you're a Pelican. Why wouldn't you want to play down there? It's always warm, beautiful town, legendary American city. I know they've had some disasters, but the people down there seem very resilient and very sports oriented. So, I mean, if they let Zion do the same thing AD did to get out of town in like 2 or 3 years, shame on that owner. Shame on whoever runs that team.
Yeah, David Griffin is the guy that kind of runs the team. I don't really get what the plan was for this year. It was kind of, perplexing to me, the pieces that they put around Zion. I mean, I don't know which more. I mean, whether you like Zion or not, you can hate him, you can like him. Doesn't really matter. But 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists a game. I mean, that's pretty damn good for a guy who was essentially playing his rookie year. I don't know what else you wanted him to do.
I'm not going to take anything away from him. I mean, and potential people that could have been on the team with him right now. Julius Randle.
Yeah, a lot of people. They had a ton of talent go through that city. They just haven't had anybody stay around. And then, Brandon Ingram is a decent player. But, they put those two guys together and then gave him not much. I mean, they brought in Eric Bledsoe, who I like, but I don't really know how much that helped. And then, they brought in Steven Adams. That was their big acquisition, which, no one really uses a center anymore, guys. So I don't know what the thought process was there. And the rest of these guys are just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, do you want to win or do you want to just sell tickets by having Zion there? I mean, it kind of seems like they're okay with that.
Yeah, and eventually Zion will leave.
Right, which I don't blame him.
No, you can't. You gotta have somebody around you. Sacramento, in Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Houston is lost. Houston, that franchise, which was once proud, is crashing badly. What do you see about those 4 teams?
Yeah, I mean, out of those 4 teams, at least Oklahoma City has a bright spot in, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, that guy had a pretty tremendous season, averaged 24 points a game. I know he got injured and missed some games, but when he was out there, he showed the ability to be a big-time player in this league, and I know a lot of guys are excited about him. But the rest of these guys, I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like they've got a bunch of junk, and they've got to do a lot of reworking. I mean, they finished 22-50. Not exactly what they were looking for. They basically tell their coach to walk, who's taking them to the playoffs almost every year he's been there, and then they go 22-50. So, I'm not sure really what the plan was there, but really disappointing season for them, in my opinion. And but at least they have somebody they can build around. As far as the Kings, the Rockets, and the Timberwolves go, I don't know. I think they'll probably be at the bottom again next year because the Kings always are.
Yeah, so since the Chris Webber days were over, they haven't found a way to recover. So I mean, we're going to start working at the playoffs. I heard today, which was pretty funny, because I just had to think it was kind of LeBron doing a little gamesmanship a little bit, calling Steph Curry the MVP of the league going into this game tonight. I already game tomorrow. I mean, I do think he respects him, but that is not really LeBron to do that. And the first thing that came to mind was, oh, he's trying to butter him up a little bit, get into his mind maybe a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the competitor that LeBron is. He's trying to put Steph up on this pedestal and then knock his ass off. I can tell you, this season hasn't gone the way that the Lakers have wanted, obviously. But I don't count them out until the final game, until they lose and they're done. I don't count them out because they have LeBron. And I know that AD has been kind of disappointing. Since coming back from the injury, it has not been the same AD. That's for damn sure. I don't know if you saw the game on Sunday, but it did not look good. I don't really know how to explain it, but Davis was 5 of 12 from the field. He finished with 14 points and played 30 minutes. So, that's not going to get it done. LeBron needs help. And
especially when he's playing on one leg.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to need some help, man. And Davis is going to have to come out of this funk that he's been in ever since he came back. I mean, he's got to come around and help LeBron out because he needs it.
This format, will it help them at all because they don't have to play back-to-back against the Warriors?
I think so. I think it'll help them tremendously. I mean, any night off is going to benefit the Lakers. As far as this, I know Steph is no spring chicken anymore, but the rest of this Golden State Warriors are pretty young. And, they've got fresh legs. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is still a young guy. They've been playing Jordan Poole quite a bit as of late, Bazemore. All those guys are Toscano Anderson. All those dudes are really young. Mulder. They've got a lot of young guys that they can roll out there. And Golden State's a very deep team. I don't know if you've watched them the last week or so, but they've essentially been playing without Draymond and without Steph, and they've still been winning. They went undefeated on their homestand. I think they won like 8 in a row in their longest homestand ever. And they won every game. So, and a lot of that was with these backups. So that will definitely help the Lakers if they can get some rest. But I'm telling you, the Warriors are going to give them everything they want because this is not just a one-man show like they say it is with Steph. He's got some dudes around him.
Now we got Memphis and San Antonio. Ja Morant, a chance for him to show off something. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been watching the Grizzlies play the last week or two just to kind of try and get a handle on what they are and who who the Grizzlies are, whether or not they can beat the Spurs. And I've got to say, I'm picking the Grizzlies to win this one. I mean, Ja Morant's a really good player, but it's not just him. I like his game. I think he's had a really good season, but the Grizzlies have like 7 or 8 guys, maybe more, that average double figures. It's crazy. I've never seen a team that had that many guys that average double figures. And then they've got 2 guys or 3 guys that average 9 points. So, we talked about Golden State being pretty deep with the young dudes stepping up here recently. The Grizzlies are very deep. And, I really like what they're doing right now. And I really like the rotations that they've got. Even when Ja goes to the bench, the Grizzlies can keep it going because it's not just him. They've got Jaren Jackson Jr. Kyle Anderson comes in off the bench and provides a spark. I like Brandon Clark and Jonas Jonas Valanciunas has had a hell of a season. 17 points and 13 rebounds. That guy, the Raptors let him walk. And all he's done is tear it up in Memphis.
Is this the end of the Spurs dynasty? Are we going to see Pop walk away?
I think this is probably his last year. I'm kind of expecting the Grizzlies to win this little play-in matchup, and I'm kind of expecting him to walk off. Maybe he won't, but that's just my feeling. I feel like they've got a long way to go to get back into being a title contending team. And I just don't know. I mean, Pop's getting older every day, buddy. And I just see that. I feel like it's time for him to hang him up. I mean, Hall of Fame career, one of the greatest coaches I've ever seen. But, I think it's over.
The interesting thing is going to be if he tries to make Becky Hammon the head coach. I'm not against Becky Hammon becoming a head coach, but it's going to be a tall order for her to run the rebuild of this. I mean, he might be upstairs helping her, but man, she won't have a lot of talent to work with when she first takes over that bench if she's the one he has in mind. So that's something to keep an eye on during the offseason with San Antonio. Moving up let's go over to the East and take a look at the East with their play-ins right now. And it starts out with Charlotte and Indiana, and that's another matchup. I mean, they each won 33, 34 games, but in a usual year, you'd expect more out of Indiana. And Charlotte, before Ball got injured, looked like they were heading in another direction. Then he gets injured, and they're derailed. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that I'm still kind of thinking Charlotte's going to win this one. I like their roster a little bit better than Indiana. Even though Ball obviously is not playing, the Hornets still have Terry Rozier, who's a very good guard who can play the one or the two, and did that for quite some time in Boston. And he's led the team in scoring with 20.4 points a game. It's still averaging over 4 assists. So I like his game. I like watching him play. And they've got some scoring options too with Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges. All those guys can score the basketball. So I'm taking the Hornets here, even though they're down a man.
Here's a team I think is going to be one of the most dangerous dark horses around. It's Washington. I just think they've got scoring.
They do, and they've got 2 superstars. Bradley Beal and Westbrook. That's those 2 guys that you've got to account for out there. And I know that Beal is banged up a little bit. He's not going to be 100% for this series. But, Boston's one of those teams that I would put on my disappointment list. And with Jaylen Brown being gone and being injured and out for the playoffs, I think Washington has a serious opportunity to win this.
And also there was that early in the season. Remember when Tatum was gone with whatever personal issues were going on? That was a long period of time when he was gone that for a superstar to be away might have hurt when they could have gotten some wins during that period too if he was around. So yeah, I totally agree. Washington was a downer this year, and you got to know I'm rooting for Washington to be hooked up somehow against the Nets.
And the question is, what happens if the Celtics go down and they lose in this play-in format? Is that the end of Brad Stevens? I mean, I seriously think it may be.
Almost for his sake, I hope it is. I mean, he may have to sit out a year, but he'll have a gig in college basketball, probably where he belongs anyways. He'll have a big high profile job in college basketball within 18 months, I'd say. So no worries about Brad Stevens getting a coaching job. I mean, he showed he could coach Boston if under the right conditions, but unfortunately, this team just didn't do anything for him this year. Lakers, I'm going to give you the three teams out of the play-in guys: the Lakers, Golden State, Washington, and Memphis. Out of those 4 teams, which team do you think, or give me the 2 teams you think will make some kind of noise?
I would say Golden State, just by the way they've been playing. The only problem is that they're playing the defending champions in the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's going to be their issue. It's not like this worked out great for them matchup wise. I mean, if ever you were going to get the Lakers, now would probably be the best time, but I'm just not sure it's a really good matchup for them. With all the length that the Lakers have. So, I would probably say, just based on who's the hottest team, I would say that the Warriors are, but I still think it's going to be tough for them to get by the Lakers.
Well, let's start with the combos we know are going to go up against each other in the East. Knicks, Atlanta, first round.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks have a really good shot here. The best thing the Knicks have is that they actually play defense. That counts, and that means something once you get into the playoffs. And I like what the Knicks have done this year. I mean, they're a team that gets everybody involved. They've got some younger guys and quickly, and you know, RJ Barrett, who are really coming around and starting to play. And then they also have a nice mix of veterans in Julius Randle and Derrick Rose. So, neither one of those guys has played a ton of playoff basketball, but this isn't going to be too big for either one of them. And I think they'll show the young guys the way. And I actually think that the Knicks will win that series.
See, I worry about the Trey Young situation. And the Knicks right now, Peyton's not playing well at the point. Quickly's not ready. Well, the man you just named, Rose, is going to have to be ready to be really the number one leader out there on the court. And it is a different Derrick Rose today than it was 10 years ago. It's not. He may be a better facilitator, and he looks like he's willing to be the new Derrick Rose. It's just a question of when the bright lights come on and it's time, will he still be able to play the way he's been playing so far this season, being, like you said, the leader, the facilitator, leading these young players, or will he go back to being what he was? You know what I mean? A score first type of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he understands who he is and what his role is on this team. I think that Thibodeau's very upfront with him and very honest with him as far as what he expects from him and what he wants him to do out there. And he's going to get his shots, but he also wants him to help him and help Julius Randle run the offense. And he wants him to play defense. And really, who is it that the Knicks have to shut down? Trey Young, yeah. They've got to shut him down, but they've got a lot of combo guards that can guard Trey Young. And then after that, who's going to hurt you? I mean, John Collins, Bogdanovich. I mean, neither one of those guys really scare me. And the Knicks have the length to cover both those guys up. I love Nerlens Noel and the way that he's played defense this year. And I can see him shutting down either one, or if not both those guys.
Did you hear the other day? Did you hear Mike Breen screw up with Nerlens Noel?
I think so, but I don't remember it right now.
He called him Taco Bell.
Oh, Taco Bell.
Yeah, he's calling him play. And I forget. I can't say the exact quote. It's on Twitter out there. But he goes, and he throws the ball to Taco Bell. And then you hear Breen go, "Did I just say Taco Bell?" And Clyde Frazier goes, "You must be hungry, man."
Wow. I mean, I guess if you're watching the Celtics and you call somebody Taco, because they have a guy named Taco, but
it was. I think it was in that game, so it probably got confused between that, but it was hysterical.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good. And Marv is hanging it up, so.
I grew up, I tell you, the thing is, I go back to having a transistor radio underneath my pillow at night, listening to Marv Albert call like the Knicks when they're on the West Coast, when Clyde Frazier was playing and DeBusschere and those guys, and also hockey. So he was a great announcer, maybe as good as gets. I mean, the thing I loved about Marv Albert, yeah, he has that one signature, yes. But it isn't this overblown stuff you hear today where these guys are practicing in front of their mirrors. And it's just, come on, guys. I understand you want to bring energy to the broadcast. That's great. But it doesn't have to sound like you got out on cue cards, too.
I just think it's amazing that guy has been calling games for 60 years. I mean, he's 80 years old and next month, and he could still go. I mean, I think it's a good idea for him to, retire and maybe settle down and relax for a little while. So I think it's a good idea, but this guy's still doing a great job and is one of the best broadcasters of all time.
Yeah, and he's a New York legend. His voice is so much the fabric of New York sports, and like I said, there isn't anybody my age group or the baby boomers that didn't grow up with Marv Albert doing a Nick or a Ranger broadcast. And he used to do NFL football on Sundays and boxing. And I mean, it's the worst thing is that the generations after us won't have a Marv Albert, and we don't have the Daily News anymore. Really, we don't have the New York Post. We don't have the sports sections and the sports writers we grew up on. So it's a shame that these kids won't have that to grow. I mean, I'll never forget listening to the transistor radio, those broadcasts, and then the next morning, my mother or father would get the Daily News and New York Post and reading the sports section cover to cover, box scores and everything, just so I knew everything that was going on. And unfortunately, they won't have that.
No, they won't. But luckily, they will have the Safety and the Sportswriter podcast, which they can, watch right here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, download the podcast from iTunes, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM podcast, wherever they get their content, they can download this show.
And you can hear me whine about what isn't, and you can tell me what is. So let's keep going on. That's how we run it. That's how we roll.
I like it. But no, I'm excited, man. I really think, I'm not sure I'm 100% fond of the play-in format. I mean, what was wrong with the 8 teams? I mean, I didn't really understand what the issue with that is. But at the same time, it's extra basketball. I'm not going to complain about extra basketball. And honestly, I think this is good. I know the Lakers don't want to hear this, but this is actually probably good for them to play, another series and get some more time with the 2 injured stars trying to get back in the fold.
Well, I could see, where I could see the complaint coming in is if San Antonio takes out the Lakers or Golden State, and you go, Lakers going, we're 12 games over 500. And, Golden State going, we're 6 games over 500. And even Memphis going, we're 4 games over 500. Whereas the other end of the spectrum, when you're talking about the East, the outside of Boston being 500, everybody else is under 500. So, it's like, best of luck you getting another shot there. So, yeah, I can understand a little bit about when you're talking about a team. I mean, with 42 wins, where would the Lakers be if they were in the East? They'd be in 4th place.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I'm just saying, I mean, I think the East is strong this year compared to where it's been in the past. I mean, I like the Sixers, I like the Nets, I like the Bucks. You've got 3 teams that potentially can win the title coming out of the East. And I just don't think you could have said that in the last 5-10 years. I mean, you had maybe 1 team, possibly 2 at the most. But right now I could see any one of those 3 teams winning the title, and I could see the Heat giving teams problems too. I know they kind of got off to a slow start, but they're 8-2 in their last 10 games, and I think that the Heat are playing their best basketball right now.
All right, since we're waiting for the matchups, the regular matchups we made up, I'm going to change the pace a little bit here. Okay, let's go. Philadelphia 76ers. For Philadelphia 76ers to make a run in the playoffs, who's their most important player?
I mean, it's their MVP. I mean, Joel Embiid. I mean, the guy averages 29 points and 11 rebounds a game and 2 blocks. I mean, he is their most important player, but I would say maybe the most important piece is Ben Simmons. I mean, yes. They have to have Ben Simmons, play a role. He's got to, when he was out of the lineup, they struggled. Yes. And he has to be out there. He has to play. He's not a guy that has to score 30 points, but he's got to distribute the basketball. He's averaging 7 assists. Everybody talks about how bad he sucks and how they hate him, but he averages 7 assists a game, and he's the point guard. So, and he can rebound. He averages, I think, almost over 7 rebounds a game. So 7 rebounds, 7 assists. He's kind of a guy that does the dirty stuff, but if he can run the offense and get the ball to Embiid, I think that's very important for them. He's got to learn to do the Magic Johnson role, and he does not get
some of the leeway that Magic Johnson got, because Magic was the first 6'9" guy that could play point. Because Magic didn't have a good outside shot, but then again, we weren't 3-point happy. You know what I mean? Magic had the benefit on most nights of playing against somebody that was 7 inches shorter than him, and also Magic was not a great defender. And his overall package was so awesome. You gave away those little things he couldn't do. It was like, what can he do? Well, he can run a team, pass better. He sees the floor better than anybody's ever seen it. He can hit guys with passes no one would ever dream of. He's a winner. He knows how to take the clutch shot. He may not have the best shot, but he's a clutch shooter. So that's the kind of things that Ben Simmons has to evolve into. Not Magic Johnson Jr., but a little bit of that kind of a game. Do a little bit of everything and not anything terrible.
Yeah, and then that, he's not he doesn't have the offensive game that Magic has, but he is a way better defender. He's a good on-ball defender. He's also a good help side defender. He leads the team with over a steal and a half a game. He's definitely proven this year that he's possibly an all-defensive team kind of guy, and I think that says a lot to him, because that's called effort, and that's doing something that a lot of guys don't want to do. So I do give Simmons some credit there. He's improved dramatically in his defense.
I'd use another word to maturity. Under Doc Rivers' tutelage, he's becoming a more mature player.
I agree. I think he's grown up. He broke up with one of the Jenners, and since then things have been looking up. So that's usually how it works. Once you get one of the Kardashians out of your life, things start to go up.
I mean, their mother turned their father into a woman, and their sisters have ruined how many sports careers?
I mean, Lamar Odom still hasn't recovered.
Oh God. Reggie Bush still hasn't recovered. I mean, we can go on and on.
Blake Griffin, he was released by the Pistons, the worst team in the league. So, it seems like, all you got to do is touch one of the Kardashians and your basketball skills just diminish dramatically. Luckily, he got one of the Jenners as opposed to a Kardashian. So maybe that's why Ben Simmons has been able to survive that.
Yeah, I'm surprised the NBA hasn't banned them. I really am. Brooklyn, most important guy for Brooklyn.
Honestly, and this is, I hate saying this because I hate him so much, but I really feel like it's Kyrie Irving. James Harden and Kevin Durant, they're going to do their thing. They're going to score, their 25 points a game, and they're going to do what they do. But it's Kyrie Irving that makes the difference. If he's out there, distributing the basketball, making the offense go, trying to be a team player, trying to play defense, getting steals, defending on the ball. If he can do those things, they have a real shot. And, as much as I hate Kyrie, I really think that he's the most important piece to this team having success.
Milwaukee,
it's going to be the guy. I know I talked about him last week when we discussed this. And, a lot of people probably don't agree with me, but I think it's the guy they brought in, Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
He's the big difference this year. He's the guy they didn't have last year. And he's the guy that can be that third option if Middleton or Giannis are not having a great night. They can turn to Drew Holiday, and he can score 20 points, 30 points a night, and he can play defense. So I think he's huge for this team, and I think he's the most important piece, obviously, besides Giannis.
It's going to be interesting to see what they learned last year from their disappointing ending. If it didn't feed them during the year enough, you would have thought they would come back. But, I mean, this was a year. COVID's attacked everybody differently. I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass for not blowing through the season. They didn't seem to have that fire in their belly all the way through this year. But they still number 3 in their conference. So they
won the Atlantic. They were first in the Atlantic, and they finished 46-26, 20 games above 500. They actually finished 8-2 in their last 10 games, and that was with sitting a lot of their guys and getting them some rest. So I think they're in a really good spot. And like I said, I can see the Bucks, the Nets, or the Sixers not just getting to the finals, but winning them.
Team that was one of our favorites last year, and now it looks like it light up the playoffs and they get serious is the Heat. Their most important player, because we already did the Knicks in Atlanta already. So let's go to the Heat. Their most important player, and are they the dark horse nobody wants in the East?
Yeah, I think they are. I think getting back on track was very important to them. And, this is a team that didn't start the way they wanted to, but, they're playing their best basketball right now. And, I think that's important. And the guy that makes everything go is Jimmy Buckets. I mean, Jimmy Butler, we saw that he can be the superstar in those finals last year. I mean, it was just amazing to watch what he could do, even though he wasn't 100%. I mean, he was putting up 40-point games, with LeBron guarding him. I mean, it was pretty impressive. And, he still had a really good season this year. I mean, injuries slowed him a little bit, but he's the leader of this team, and this team will kind of go the way he goes. But that being said, they're going to need Tyler Hero to get back to some sort of form that he was in last year. I mean, this is not the same guy that everyone was raving about in the bubble last year. He hasn't had the same type of explosiveness, and he's going to have to play better for them to do what they did last year.
All right, we'll go out west. Utah, most important player.
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, that's the guy that averages 27 points, but I honestly think it's Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is a guy that a lot of teams don't have, and that's a center that can move. The guy averages 14 rebounds a game, but he can have some sneaky games too where he can score some points. I know he only averages like 14, 15 points a game, but if they get a matchup they like, they will go to him. And his most important area is on defense. The guy averages 3 blocks a game, and he's not only a good low post defender, but he's good in the help game, and he protects the rim like most teams don't have anymore.
Okay, so you say Gobert, no one has an answer to. Okay. Phoenix, of course, Booker is going to be the first thing anybody talks to, but you and I both know Chris Paul. Can Chris Paul finally have that playoff that'll cement his legend?
Man, I hope so. I love Chris Paul. He's a great guy. He's a excellent basketball player. And, I think he likes this team. I think he likes playing on the Phoenix Suns. I mean, DeAndre Ayton has continued to improve. Devin Booker has obviously had a very strong season. I like Mikal Bridges. I just think that I think he fits in really well with this team. But, yeah, I think it's going to go based on Chris Paul. He's the most important guy on this team. He's the one that makes it all go. Not only does he run the offense, but he's a very good defender as well, and he's going to make these guys play defense too. So I think they're going to go as far as Chris Paul will take them.
I mean, there's 2 guys. I'll take Chris Paul, and I think Jason Kidd are 2 people I look at that were destined to play point guard in the NBA. Their game suits it so well. What they do well is what you want your point guard to do. They were cerebral about it. They understood how to make everybody around them better. I mean, if there were 2 better point guards in my lifetime, I don't know who they are than those 2 guys. I mean, even though Magic Johnson was a great point guard and Stockton and everything, but I mean, for the total package, I would put Chris Paul and Jason Kidd up against anybody.
I agree. I mean, going back to their days in college at Cal and Wake Forest, I mean, these dudes have done nothing but play the point guard position extremely well ever since they've been doing it.
All right, we're going out to Denver, who of course won't have their best player. Well, no, their 1 or 1A player is gone, but they do have the Joker there. So, can the Joker put him on his back?
Yeah, he's going to have to. I mean, this is a guy that leads the team in almost every category: points, rebounds, assists, steals. I mean, he is in the top 2 or 3 for MVP, in my opinion. What else can you say? But I think it's going to come down to Michael Porter Jr. This is a guy that has really stepped up since Murray went down. He's been playing better and better every game. You got to remember this guy missed his lone college season in Missouri. He played like 6 games and then went out. And he's kind of, been up and down with injuries since then, and it's taken him a while to get going. But he's playing really good basketball right now. He's averaging almost 32 minutes a game, 19 points, almost 8 rebounds. I think he's going to be the most important piece, obviously, besides Joker Man.
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit we're putting these two together because we did look at Atlanta and we looked at the Knicks together to 4-5. We know they're going to be there. Dallas against the Clippers. I could see Dallas taking the Clippers out.
Yeah, I could too, but at the same time, Dallas has been a little bit of a disappointment to me. Just with, Luka's, I don't know. I just expected him to be just tearing the league up this year. Just everything he did last year was so amazing to me. I just kind of expected him to be next level all year long, and it hasn't been 100% like that. Now, that being said, the playoffs is where he really, took off last year. When he hit the 3-pointer to win. They gave the Clippers a hard time last year in that round. So it can be done. It's just what kind of play can he get around him? I mean, he needs help. He needs Tim Hardaway Jr. to hit some shots. He needs Brunson to come in and do something. And they've also got Josh Richardson, who I know very well from playing here in Knoxville. Definitely a really good defender and a guy that can, streaky score at times. So they're gonna need help from everybody, and if they're gonna have any shot of taking down the Clips.
Well, I know I'm very critical of him, but do you think that maybe if Porzingis could have had a better year, would have helped him a little bit more, or to take a little more pressure off him?
Well, I mean, when he was out there, he played pretty well. It's just, once again, injuries are, that's his problem is availability. He played
Giancarlo Stanton and
it's Kristaps and Giancarlo. They must have the same trainer because those guys are hurt more than they're playing.
That's for sure. And then, of course, we do have Portland, who's another team that we talked about it the other night. Here's a team where on any given night, you can have a guard filling up 60 points. Yeah. And you could have him filling up 60 points and still not winning.
Yeah. The Trailblazers are the only team that I can ever remember that has a guy that can drop 50 and lose.
Consistently.
Consistently. And they've been doing it for 3 years. Where Lillard will be going down and matching whoever it is he's playing, and will score 50 points, and then somehow they end up losing the game. And I really don't understand that, except that I don't think they have enough around him. I don't like the team that they built around him. It's like they were on their way, but then they never really added the one guy that they were missing, in my opinion. They didn't get him the help he needed in order to be a team that can contend to win the West.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and the worst thing is it's another situation where they have to make moves like New Orleans has to make. Otherwise, you're going to have Lillard go and get me out of here. Especially in a place like Portland where it's easy to be forgotten. I mean, Portland they can go years without anybody even noticing that there's an NBA team out there. So,
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, it is a pretty big basketball town. I mean, the Portland fans love
They're
their
good
team.
fans. They're good fans. I'll give them that. But
It's just the people, around there, that you can kind of get lost in the Lakers spotlight. But this is a guy that signed a 5-year, $140 million contract. I don't know what that means, but I could see him staying out there. I just think if they want to win a title, if they want to contend for a title, they're gonna have to get the man some help.
yeah, no, the whole thing is there seems to be right now, outside of the top teams, there are a bunch of young studs that need that. They need somebody to be their running mate. Oklahoma City, you could say it about. You know what I mean? You could say it about a couple of different places. Zion, of course, you could say it about. Where if you give them a secondary player, let's see what they can do. So it's going to be interesting. And the playoffs are here, not too soon, because baseball is getting to where we're going to be just sitting there every night going, is it over yet? Next thing will be the trade deadline, and then can we get any pennant races? But thank God we'll have football by then. Thursday night, big guest coming in, former Hall of Fame football player and coach, and your friends. I'll let you introduce them.
Yeah, we're going to have Thursday night, we're going to have special guest J.J. Fadden joining the show, Hall of Fame Wilkes-Barre, defensive lineman, professional football player, and also an excellent coach who was up in your neck of the woods, coached at Northeastern and also in the Ivy Leagues at Cornell. So we're going to have him on the show, talk to him a little bit about his playing career, his coaching career, and also we'll dig into him a little bit with he's a Giants fan, I believe, so we can talk a little Giants with him.
Oh, we got plenty to go over with him there. We got plenty of work to do there.
Yeah, and we can also, go into the state of the state of coaching and how it's changed and why he got out of coaching, because I think there were some factors there that we can ask him about.
And basically the state of football. I was going to bring up, but it fell into the back of my mind about who cares. They had a projected Aaron Rodgers to the Denver Bronco trade today, which was going to include Drew Lock, a guard, a defensive back, 3 first-round draft choices, and a second-round draft choice. The 3 first-round drafts are going to be in 2022, 23, 24. And I'm like, that sounds like something Denver will do, and it will not work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why you would I know they want to have a quarterback there. I know that they want to improve the quarterback position, but how does that help you if you get rid of everybody else that's good? I don't really get I don't really understand that. And you just traded for Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's you're in good spot. I mean, Drew Lock either is going to play well and be your starter, or he's going to, regress and not get any better. And then you put Teddy Bridgewater out there. I mean, you got 2 guys that could possibly get you over the hump and get you back playing playoff football. I don't see why you would mortgage the farm and get rid of all the animals.
And nothing, I'm sure he's a nice guy and he's a good football coach and has forgotten more than I'll ever know. But Vic Fangio is never going to get you past the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care if you got Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. The Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in that division, okay? And you got Herbert, who's coming up, is going to be the second best quarterback in that division. Derek Carr is already established as a pro quarterback. Denver is not Aaron Rodgers away from the Super Bowl.
No, and especially if they get rid of half their team to get him. That's my point. Is if they get rid of everybody that's good, I don't understand how. I mean, yeah, their quarterback play will be better, but who's he going to throw to? I don't really understand that. But
see, that's where this whole mindset of Aaron Rodgers doesn't get me. You can understand now when those wheels were going in Tom Brady's head, he understood Tampa Bay would be a place that was ready to win, and he could go down there He understood what Bruce Arians was about. He understood the players that he was going to get there to play with, and everything seemed to make sense. This just seems to be a place where Aaron Rodgers will move from Wisconsin to the Rocky Mountains and have the same problems and less of a wide receiver to throw to.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the Denver receiving core. I mean, Jerry Jeudy did not overly impress last year, in my opinion. Cortland Sutton was hurt all year. I just think they've got a long way to go. And I'm not sure, what this – I just don't see the Packers trading away Aaron Rodgers. I really don't think they're going to do that.
I don't either.
I think they're going to call his bluff and make him sit out if he wants to not play for them. And I don't think he's going to – he's not going to turn down the money.
No, and we'd have to give back some of the signing bonus as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, and if he doesn't show up to camp, you can start finding him every day, and we could be
talking possibly a $60 million transaction.
Yeah, he's going to show up eventually, so whatever. But one thing that before we go here that I was very interested to see today was the Washington football team letting Ryan Kerrigan go, who's their all-time leader in sacks. And then, I was like, I there was so many teams who I thought would make a play for him, and that I saw could get way better by just adding Kerrigan. And they let him leave and sign with the Eagles. I couldn't believe that, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I think he makes the Eagles a lot better with that pass rush. Because they already have their two starters, and now they can rotate Kerrigan in, or at least give him a chance to start with Barnett and Graham. That makes the Eagles defense a lot better right away.
How good would he have looked at the Giants?
That's my point. I mean, that's a team right there that I didn't even mention, but I was going to say, the Giants. Wow, all the things he could have done to help out that pass rush and groom the young kids. And show them how to be a pro. I just can't believe that they let him get away
with a young coaching staff.
Yeah,
that could use his experience.
He's a good veteran.
Well, glad we ended this on a down note for me as a Giant fan, but that's okay. It's okay.
Hey,
it's all right.
I thought it was worth bringing up.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Breaking my heart, that's okay. I'm used to heartbreak. It's okay.
Right.
I've been a Met fan. I've been a Giant fan. I've seen the worst of it. Anyways, great show tonight. We'll be back to talk on football on Thursday. We'll be hitting football switch again. NBA basketball, of course, now will be occupying us for the next few months. We have a lot to bring up. Looking for guests. To bring you guys some good shows. Thank you for tuning in tonight to the Safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville, Nate, and Joe. We will be back on Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.